hand this over to the casters. But what are your guys' predictions, LD and Merlini?
Tongfu.
2-0 Tongfu. I mean, it's really... Zenith has looked pretty dubious, I would say, as of late. At times they have these moments of individual brilliance, but their team decision-making, their drafting, their execution, we know they're capable of being a top team, but right now they're just not in great form.
Yeah, I mean, they had some success. Yesterday they ran like a Darkseer and Tree. I think that was their only win. I mean, it was pretty good, though. I mean, it seems like spotty overall, though.
There was the game where versus Na'Vi, where XY steals Dendy's bottle, X Freedom is Tree, he gets a Quelling Blade, he's tangoing through the trees. I mean, they've definitely had their moments. They're fan favorites. They're an entertaining bunch. They could surprise us. If they're going to beat Tongfu, I feel like it's got to be going back to what they're really good at, which is XY Tinker, Ice Darkseer, get a hard carry for Yamatik, the Gyrocopter, and play a more standard game. If they go clowny, if they go crazy, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, they've experimented a little bit, but I don't think now's not the time.
now is not the time, but that's when we say that, that's when Zenith says, now is not the time, therefore it is the time. With that being said, guys, the draft's underway. Let's hop into it. Tongfu versus Zenith, game number 1. It's a best of 2. Of course, immediately following this will be the match that many of you are waiting for, IG versus Na'Vi. But Zenith, they'll start this off with a first pick Visage, and I like this quite a bit.
Visage is, I mean, we've seen him like just hit with massive success in this tournament so far. And no Wisp ban. I guess the Eastern teams aren't really scared of other Eastern teams using Wisp.
Yeah, Zenith is a team that I would say is unorthodox enough that they could certainly bust one out. I don't think it's something Tongfu would turn to. I believe they have run it in the past, rarely, but it's not. They're not known for their Wisp play by any means. We'll see what Tongfu go for here, but I feel like that banana jungler is likely to come out first. We saw how good Enchantress can be against Visage. Impetus works on the familiars, can kill them very quickly. You can also just pressure the Visage's lane early. They start with Dragonite here, and if you follow this up with Enchantress, you give yourself a very strong mid-game push. You can put a lot of pressure on the lanes, get some hard carry for the safe lane, and try to lay that Visage level 6, try and get some early map control.
Right, I think there's still a lot of great supports left in the pool. Shadow Demon, Chen and Enchantress like you talked about. There's still Nyx Assassin, Rubik, and I think securing those supports can really dictate the pace of the early game. Oh, looks like they'll go with Weaver.
Wow, going with a carry that offers you quite a bit of mobility now. This makes sense because Zenith started with a Visage, so you get a support who doesn't really have any stuns. Sure, you've had the familiars, but you have to hit level 6 for that. So in the laning stage, Visage can't really directly shut down a Weaver. He'll need help from other supports to do it. And, well, for Zenith, what do you think we're going to see for the second pick? Do they want to go for something like the XY Tinker here?
I mean, there's always still Life Stealer, too. Life Stealer is decent for Dragonite, not the best since he has such high armor, but it's still nice to be able to just whack away at those strength healers, and you can just rush in with Life Stealer. We haven't seen him too much in this tournament. He's been banned out a couple of times, but definitely falling off the top tiers, similar to Lone Druid, actually. I haven't seen him once in this tournament thus far, at least in Group B.
Yeah, we'll see what they go for. Zenith, Ice's Darkseer has been banned out. That's the big ban for me, that I look at what Tongfu's done so far, and this is a target ban against Ice. Darkseer is generally a strong hero. We'll see teams ban it, but Zenith have had a lot of success when he's on that hero in particular, so they ban it out. They'll remove it from the pool, and Zenith will have to turn for something different, or to something different, I should say, and they're really biding their time here with the second pick. Generally, I mean, they snapped up the Visage right away. It seemed like they knew exactly what they wanted to do, but, well, they'll start eating into the reserve time here.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like a... I would like Shadow Demon. I think it's just really good versus Dragonite. I mean, Dragontail has just been dominating these games. It's such an underrated stun. Super long duration. Very easy to get off with in Dragon form. And, I mean, the duration is just ridiculous. He's like a Beastmaster on steroids.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of additional pushing power early on. And the Dragonite's been winning a lot of games lately. I mean, even when he's losing, he's having huge impact. Dendy in that last game, it got picked off right before
Spectre.
Right at potentially a crucial moment, but still almost turned the game around. Multiple Dragon Tails in the team fights, and the Frost Dragon, it seems like every game, Dragonite is hitting level 16 super early, not going for Midas, not even farming Ancient Stacks, just being very active and involved in kills, and you get level 16, you make your main carry so much stronger because the enemy carry is being kited, they're being slowed, and Weaver, for example, is just freed up to do whatever he wants.
And he's just like nigh impossible to kill during Black
and you
King
have
bar.
to focus him. You can't ignore a hero with 100% splash and a spammable long duration stun.
I mean, he just an incredible hero, and he's really good at pushing too. We see a lot of teams put out a lot of early pressure, whether it be through a Nature's Prophet that was just banned or Chen, and that level 6, especially with the recent buff to 6.78 Dragon Knight. I mean, he can just siege down those towers incredibly well.
Yeah, we'll see what Zenith go for after this pick, but they've gone Spectre now, so they shore up their late game. They do have a tri-lane with no real lockdown to speak of, assuming the Visage Spectre will be a part of a tri-lane. We did see a solo safe lane Spectre, but that was specifically against a Prophet, and it was only one game. Prophet's been banned out by Tongfu. They don't want to give Zenith that really global lineup with familiars just flying all over the place, scouting things out, and of course the Prophet teleport, the haunt, the long-range initiation pick-off potential. So they'll ban the Prophet out here. They're banning out Ice heroes. I wonder if they'd even think about a lone Druid ban, but he is a bit weaker in the off lane with the change to the Bear Bounty. It's now 300 instead of 100. Instead, they'll ban something we saw yesterday, which worked really well for Zenith. The XY Slark absolutely steamrolled Dendy mid, stole his bottle. I mean, made Dendy, who's a fantastic solo mid, look silly. Not many players can say that.
Tongfu has definitely done their research.
Yeah, they've done their research, and Zenith will ban out the 2 junglers. Again, Winter's talked about this a lot. It's what all the teams in Asia are doing right now. When they see Visage, they try and pick a jungler. Tongfu didn't do it in the first 2 picks, so Zenith banned both of them out.
Right, I think it's very smart for them to do this like Visage and Spectre, because if you have Spectre, you are kind of forced to do this defensive triple lane, and teams might actually contest you just because Spectre simply just isn't the best triple lane hero. For example, like Alchemist is really strong, he has a lot of AoE, he has minus armor, he has farming capabilities, and he has a stun, but Spectre doesn't really have too much to offer besides escaping, so that is your like weak point. If you can't secure Spectre's early farm, you very well may easily lose the game. But Visage is one of the strongest tri-lane heroes. He's kind of like the 6.78 Keeper of the Light. If you have him in your triple lane, you almost guarantee to win.
Yeah, speaking of Keeper Light, I mean, if you're up against an aggressive tri-lane, fantastic hero can... And sure, it does give you 2 supports with no real lockdown through the laning stage, but it's such a long-range tri-lane. Visage with Soul Assumption, Keeper of the Light with Illuminate. You could just push the wave with Illuminate, and then it's much easier to take your own stack safely, to go execute pulls, to de-ward without getting picked off. And you look at Tongfu's lineup, Clockwork, Dragon Knight, Weaver, pretty good lane control for Weaver, but Dragon Knight's not a hero who's going to be ganking you that early on. Mostly just sits mid and pressures the lane. Clockwork, not going to gank until level 6, so they'll go Rubik here, but I felt like if they wanted to go Keeper of the Light, they certainly could. It is a pretty strong tri-lane in terms of defensive capabilities, not the most killing power early on, though.
Yeah, so it's still interesting to see what they're going to do for their other 2 heroes. I feel like they really need a lot more AoE, just a lot more damage and early mid-game control. Queen of Pain would fit that role like really well, I think. But those kind of really squishy intel heroes are especially vulnerable to Dragon Knight, especially with, I don't think I've seen Lincoln's picked up yet in this tournament. Very good versatile lineup
there was
right now.
The one game, the Weaver game earlier today.
Oh, right,
but that was about it. And it worked really well, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great item. It's a very good solution versus Dragon Knight's very low cooldown stun, because you don't want to just use BKB versus one spell. But and they don't have any other single target spells.
You know, it's funny. It was actually Hao. Wow, they're going to go Doom here. But it was actually Hao playing the Weaver for Tongfu who did that. So, of course, Dragon Knight Weaver on the same team. So we're not going to see Weaver doing that this game, at least not to counter Dragon Knight. But Tongfu, they go Doom, a greedy quad core here already. Even if you want to play Clockwork or Doom as a support, they offer you minimal impact in the laning stage. So Tongfu, they see Spectre, they see Rubik Visage, heroes, supports that want level 6, a carry that takes a long time to really come online, and they say, you know what, we're going to raise you, we're going to double down and get greedy, and we'll go Doom. And I think getting greedy here is great for Tongfu, because Zenith are not in a position to punish it.
Right. Oftentimes when you're against Spectre, you're kind of in the predicament, well, if we just leave him alone for 20 minutes, we're just going to straight up lose to Radiance or Manta Diffusal, Drums, any of those items. Like, Spectre scales so incredibly well with items because of Dispersion and Desolate and Haunt, and he has an added mobility too. So, like, trading, most of the time that we've seen Spectre, like, just given safe lane free farm, most of the time is traded with Alchemist, Max Grievel's Greed, and he just like outfarms them by a mile. So most teams choose to actually just outfarm them, and I think Tongfu has the perfect lineup for that.
Wow. Zenith are going to go for the Invoker. Now the big question is
huge.
Who is going to play it on this team? Because they have 3 Invoker players. Yamate, legendary Invoker player for Orange, has not played it as much recently. Ice, we all remember he terrorized Complexity at the International 2 on the main stage in their first match. on that stage. Sunstrike Invoker, he's raining down Hellfire. I felt like I was watching Command and Conquer. It was like the Ion Cannon, the Orbital Ion Cannon just kept on being used, evaporating poor IX Mike. Or it could be XY. Great solo mid Invoker, not quite as flashy as Ice Ice Ice, but just a solid, more stable option. So we'll see what they go for as far as who plays it, but most likely I'm leaning towards XY Invoker mid. And then I guess the big question is, what kind of an Invoker will it be?
I think it's going to have a lot of trouble versus Doom, though. I mean, who are you going to do
Wait
in
a
this lineup?
second. Tongfu just banned Tinker. Would they really pick Tinker here when they already have Invoker? I guess we saw that offlane Tinker. The
Right.
ancient stacking, the jungling.
I feel like they just want to get to late game with Spectre. That just seems like their game plan here. Quas Wex Invoker would work very well for that. Tinker with March Spam would work well to that. But again, the pressure's not really on Tongfu to kill Spectre a lot early. But I mean, Invoker versus Doom, he's just gonna get doomed every time. Usually, you want like a really tanky carry who isn't gonna die during a Doom, whether it be Dragon Knight, maybe an Alchemist with Chemical Rage on. Either of those work pretty well. But I mean, plenty of good Doom targets.
So what did
certainly.
Tongfu go here? They need a support. Either Clockwork or Doom is going to be that 4 role right now. And I mean, it's really like a 3.5 role. They can't properly fulfill a 4 position. So you need a pretty hard support here. Is it a Crystal Maiden? What are you thinking?
I think Crystal Maiden is just going to feed Spectre like massively
That's
later.
true.
I think maybe Jakiro. Oh,
Okay.
Protector.
Well, they'll pick one of the strongest supports for making your other lane stronger. The Weaver will be very happy. The Dragon Knight's never going to die. In fact, Tongfu has one of the most unkillable lineups you will ever see. There is no food on this team, and there's very little stuns on Zenith. I mean, Weaver, what is he going to die to? A Rubik Lift into Cold Snap. Maybe they can Soul Assumption him when he's low level, but if he gets enough farm, there's just no easy kills on this Tongfu squad.
Yeah, Telekinesis.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. I mean, they could have more lockdown though in this last hero, but ooh, Lone Druid. Speaking of
Well,
Lone Druid,
that's the Ice 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 hero. We know what he'll be
Wow.
playing. It looks like an XY solo mid Invoker, Yamate Spectre. As for Tongfu, Banana's going to be on the Triad. I'm actually sad to see this because there are only so many plays you can make on Triad. You just use Living Armor at the right time. That's pretty much your job.
Signature's guises.
Yeah.
Oh well, we did have.
Cue up the dubstep.
We had that one game where he had like Quelling Blade and just like ate around. That was kind of cool.
That was X Freedom, but
Yeah.
we'll see if Banana goes for that type of style of a Triad. But I was hoping to see something a little more explosive as a support for him. Something
I
like
mean, there's a
Rubik.
lot of late game. Like Invoker's pretty good late game, especially once he gets his Aghanim Scepter, Lone Druid, Incredible, Spectre, Dragon Knight, Weaver, and Doom. So I mean, if we see this go late, it could be quite the slugfest.
So if it's XY Invoker, normally when he's playing it, it seems to be a Quas Wex, and I think that's the better choice here for stalling the game. You get Quas
Right.
Wex. You look at Tongfu, they do have the Doom. I think he'll probably be jungling. He can build early Arcanes, but the rest of their team, there's not really any other heroes that generally want to build Arcane Boots, so early EMP could actually be very potent against Tongfu's lineup.
Yeah, generally you want a couple Arcane Boosts. I mean, we saw Doom go Arcane Mech, I believe, and I think most trees would opt for that early too. So it could be pretty good. They also don't have very good setup for Sunstrike. I mean, maybe Lucky Entangle. Telekinesis is like very short. Usually you want something like any sort of like double stun, whether it be Sand King Leshrac, even a Shadow Demon would work well. All of those are very, very good when it comes to setting up Sunstrikes with an Exhort Invoker, but Quas Wex is probably the safe bet here.
My goodness. Tongfu 4-0 all time against Zenith. Now, bear in mind, Tongfu's roster has changed. Zenith's roster has changed, I believe, since they played at least some of those games. But with that being said, the cores of these teams are intact. Ice Ice Ice, X Freedom, XY have been with Zenith for ages. And then, of course, for Tongfu, you have Hao, Mu, as well as Sang Shun.
So for
Is it Sang Shun?
Sansheng?
Sansheng.
Okay, so
Sansheng.
on Tongfu, we have King J on Clockwork, Sansheng on the Doom, Banana on the Treant Protector, hopefully some flashy plays from him. We have Mu on most likely the solo mid Dragon Knight, and Hao on the Nerubian Weaver.
I'm not sure if you're just taking it easy on me, buddy, because I figured I'd get some big flames from you for that butchery of the Chinese language. But Merlini's feeling kind, at least for now. He's too tired to flame. That's the advantage I have.
After that last game.
Yeah.
Wow.
That game was so exhausting. It's like, that's not the last game of the day? Oh, crap. Well, on the side of Zenith, you've got your Singaporean Malaysian mix, one of the flashiest teams out of Southeast Asia. Ice Ice Ice. He'll be the off-lane lone druid. Let's see what he can make happen with this bear. You'll have a safe lane, or rather, excuse me, a solo mid invoker handled by XY. Sensational Slark play yesterday. Can he deliver on the invoker? We're about to find out. It'll be X Freedom taking up the reins of the Visage. Ice on the Rubik. And then last but not least, Yamate, or NWP as he now
30
likes to be
seconds
called,
to
I'm not
battle.
sure why, handling the Spectre.
So, I mean, Invoker, he's an interesting pick here, but I think he's going to be very useless versus BKBs. Dragon Knight almost certainly going to get a BKB. Weaver could get one. I mean, Lincoln's is, like, alright, but they have Grave Chill, they have Soul Assumption, they have Spell Seal, Telekinesis, Fade Bolt, like, all these things to pop it. I think that BKB is probably a better choice, simply because it's amazing versus Invoker. So I feel like if Tongfu has a decent early game and can farm their BKBs to mitigate dispersion damage and mitigate the damage potential from Invoker, it could be pretty difficult mid to late game for Zenith. But it all depends on this early laning stage.
As much as Tongfu's draft looks pretty greedy, right? I mean, you have a support tree and Clockwork, or Doom in tree, I suppose. We'll see King Kage in the crease. But at the end of the day, Zenith does have a Spectre, Invoker, as well as the Lone Druid. That is some pretty fearsome late game of their own. And look at Ice up to his usual tricks with the bear. He's going to be body blocking the big camp, which is actually where Sansheng wants to start. So his jungle game will be a bit delayed. Ice making maximum use of the bear. And Merlini, talking about the Lone Druid pick, it was their final selection in this game. And I think it's really smart because they saw Tongfu went support Doom and Treant. How do these heroes actually zone the bear out of the jungle? They just have no way to harass it. They're both melee. They don't have that much lockdown between them. So he can actually be a complete pain in the rear with the bear.
Right, he's not going to get that early farm though, but neither will the Doombringer. I'm surprised. Oh, see, look at Ice. What a player. So he's actually blocking 3 camps right now with only 1 ward. He's using a bear to block 1.
Micro skills.
He body blocked the 30-second and the 1-minute spawn for the left big camp, and he used a sentry for the other one. So now he's forced to eat the Null Assassin.
And that is, if you have to use your first Devour on a Null Assassin, that has over a minute cooldown. That really hurts.
I mean, he also got really unlucky. Looking at this spawn, it's actually a Mud Golem spawn, so a little bit of good play combined with bad luck for the Doombringers. Rough start for him.
Well, that being said, we'll see if he can bounce back. The good news is they have a Weaver who's 5 and 5.
Oh my goodness, he's going to kill this ward too.
Ice. What a player. Banana will be forced to drop another sentry, but Ice is going to eat a bit of harassment from How, who came in with Sakuchi. Already, he's disrupted 2, arguably 3 heroes with the Weaver being forced to come and assist.
He doesn't have another sentry.
Wow,
he already used one on bottom right. Oh my goodness.
Oh no. They're in a lot of trouble now, and you look at this, they also are getting free farm on the safe lane Spectre. Yamate already 9 and 2, and the Invoker mid is the one who's really struggling. Of course, Invoker got a big base damage nerf, I believe it was 2 patches ago. He'll go for the early boots here. I imagine straight into phase boots. I've seen XY often opt for an early Null Talisman in the past, but it seems like boots first and then probably straight into phase from here.
Yeah, I must say Zenith is doing very, very well in this early game. Spectre on top of the CS charts with 11 against this solo Clockwork bottom, not even level 2 yet, and Doom's jungling skills has been hindered greatly, although finally he gets a level 6 creep. He has that Hellbear Smasher with the clap, but again, he is much further behind than Dooms are usually at this point in the game.
And he's not getting the ideal creeps. You do not want the Hellbear Smasher. The clap's okay in this situation for clearing the camp, but you really want the Satyr that gives you the HP regen, or Wildkin, so you can just stack the big camp and then farm it with Tornado. But
or Troll with the
or the skeletons, which are really good just for jungling straight off the bat. Ice taking a lot of damage. Just the Living Armor Weaver combo. So friggin' obnoxious. The Swarm is on him. He tries to run his way out. He looks to be in a world of pain. He's going to drop first blood to How. A much-needed kill. Ice. Get the hell out of our jungle, How says.
He is peeing on the Weaver. He's like, where is my team at? I'm getting dove at my T2 3 minutes in. But that is just the power of Living Armor. You don't have to give 2 shits about any tower. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, without Living Armor there, Weaver would have died trying to make that play. How took a couple of tower shots to the face, but in the end, does find a much-needed kill. And it's not what it does for the Weaver. For me, it's really what it does for the Doom and the Treant, who can now actually farm the jungle, and not get constantly picked off.
So Spectre not going a super greedy build. He's going phase boost, not rushing like a super fast Radiance like we have seen some of them do. He also went for a 2-2 build. I saw Havos go like a 4-4-1 build. I would highly advocate going 1 level dispersion. That skill is just incredibly good for the amount of skill points that you invest in it. Just 1 point gives you 10% reflection. It's akin to Anti-Mage's Spell Shield. 1 point just gives you incredible returns on it.
21 and 9 on a safe lane Spectre. We're 4 minutes in. It's only 5 CS per minute, which isn't quite as ridiculous as it could be. But end of the day, Yamate is being contested by a Clockwork who's using cogs to draw the lane back. I gotta say, King J is doing a great job here. He's an off-lane clock against the tri-lane with pretty decent lockdown, and he's managed to hit level 3. He is taking a lot of damage, however, from Yamate, but whenever there's living armor, you always have to be careful about committing to those engagements. He won't in the end. He'll back off. Overall, Merlini, Spectre getting a lot of farm. Tongfu support shut down a little bit, but they have a Dragon Knight dominating, really dominating the middle lane, up by 7 CS and 3 denies, and they got first blood. Seems pretty even to me this early on.
Yeah, one really big problem this game. I mean, Ice did a really good job in the first, like, 1 minute where he blocked 3 spawns until the 1 minute spawn. But looking at his CS, he has 3 creep kills. And his bear is constantly doing other things besides getting creeps. He is, like, trying to shadow the Doombringer. He's trying to block creep spawns and just being maybe a little bit too cutesy with it. You need farm on Lone Druid, no doubt about it.
I feel really bad for XY this game. What is he supposed to do? Dragon Knight constantly getting living armor. You can't really Atlas hit the DK very easily until you get phase boots because you have awful damage as a Quaswex Invoker. He is starting to take some points in the MP now. 3 into Quas. Phase boots on the way. The lane gets a bit easier in fact, a lot easier for him from here, but still Mu off to a powerful start. Weaver off to a powerful start, being handled by Hao. And well, the question is, what will Tongfu do in the mid game? They're looking for the levels on these supports, as well as the offlane clock, and those are a bit slow to come by. Doom only level 3 in the jungle, 5.5 minutes in. Normally you could be 4 or 5 by now, and the offlane clock doing pretty well, but then Treant, only 2 for Banana. He's really struggling, and Ice is not making his life easy.
I think he's going to be a liability. He's forced to TP out right now. I mean, he's losing so much time farming, and Weaver is just having the time of his life up top. Already farming with treads, and he's looking pretty well, as is his Spectre. Both of the carries hitting level 6 at this point in the game.
Yeah, early access into Haunt for Yamate, but he's really low. He actually opts to go for a Rain of Health. Are we going to see that old school Vanguard first build, or is it just a casual Rain of Health? We'll wait to find out, but this is something I actually have not seen in a while. Normally, if you want the HP regen in lane, you just go for Tranquil Boots, but he decides to go Rain of Health here.
Yeah, I guess it's going to be a Vanguard. I'm not a fan of the Vanguard build. If you want HP, I think Tranquil is a great option. Drums is a great option. Even just having your supports buy you a flask or Tango is a good option. I don't think that. I mean, Spectre is just really difficult to farm with at the early stage of the game, and you really have to just make the best out of your gold early. I don't think that's the best choice, but we will see how it pans out.
Yeah, he doesn't have a Stout Shield or a Poor Man Shield. I mean,
or Quelling Blade.
Or Quelling Blade. I'm not really sold on Yamate's items, but he is your lead farmer. He's 43 and 20. He's CSing like a champ. It's just he could be at full HP, and that might free Zenith up to go for some
he
kills.
won't be able to haunt in and get a kill.
Yeah, he can haunt, but he's not joining it. Top lane, they're diving Ice. They've used the living armor Weaver combo to great effect. He's not level 5, but in comes the backup. It's X Freedom. They do find the kill, and now Hao runs away, squirms his way towards the middle lane. Double teleport from the supports. They're going on to Shang, but he's got the Doom Scorched Earth up, and he'll be able to escape. So they TP2, they don't kill anyone, and the Lone Druid falls. Fantastic little trade for Tongfu. Now Clockwork's going to get more out of bottom. Mu can pressure mid, and their top lane, Treant continues to pull.
I mean, they're just putting so much pressure on Isis Lone Druid. I think this is just laning phase is going terribly for Zenith at this point.
He started off ultra cheeky, brought the bear back to lane, decided he was going to try and lane it out, and really paid. They'll bring in the Dragon Knight mid, they lift him up, they throw him back down, but there's no entangle, and Ice and Moose says, I'm going in, baby, finds the kill, then walks back out, and Ice is just scratching his head. I thought we had that one, guys. He was very wrong. And it seems Zenith is just consistently underestimating the power of living armor. Ice top, and now Ice mid.
Yeah, I mean, it's only level 3 Treant with level 2 living armor, but I mean, look at him right now. He's just going balls deep on this visit.
Baits out a haunt, and X Freedom's gonna go down anyway, and Moo can get away. He haunted, he wants King J bottom. He will be able to find it, so the haunt not really wasted there by any means, but this DK is going ham, and he's making things happen.
Yeah, he is going to be a force to reckon with. I don't know if he's going Shadow Blade first or BKB, but those are usually one of the first 2 items that we see on Dragon Knights.
They've been forced to send Ice into the jungle. Just completely abandoned the offlane. Hao, with an early Rain of Aquila, it should be on. It is on. He can pressure this top tower. And who goes to defend this lane for Zenith? I don't think they have a hero that can just stand here top and actually farm. I mean, maybe Spectre can live against the Weaver, just, dagger into the trees and try and run away, but
that's not worth it for them.
Yeah, with living armor, Hao's going to be able to pressure anyone out of lane, so Ice will sit at this tower, but it feels like he may well die again if the Weaver goes on him.
Doom is almost level 6 too, so we're going to see some rotations, and I mean, they will get this tower very, very quickly on top. I mean, look at Ice's position right now. He's full HP, and he's forced to try and block the wave so that he's not in a position of danger.
And he does pull the creep wave past the tower, but you just continue to see the chip damage from Hao. as he plinks away at it. He'll rotate towards the top rune. 9.5 minutes in. He's on the hunt. He'll head up to the secret chop. He's going for a wraparound solo Weaver gank under cover of Sakuchi. I don't think Ice saw this, even though there's an observer ward. It is nighttime. He jumps on Ice. How is going big or going home, and I think he's going big here. Actually auto-techs a creep. That might cost him this kill. Just kidding. He finds it anyway. Beautiful play from How. And at Tongfu, they've done their research with this Weaver Treant pick combination. They know exactly what
I mean,
they're
that
doing.
rocket came in perfectly timed from King J on the bottom, too.
Fantastic execution.
Indeed. And
you
it looks
look-
like this tower's going to go down the middle unless they put up defense very, very quickly.
And with that top lane going so poorly, they've tried to TP tier heroes there to bail it out. That's slowed down the Spectre a little bit. Oh, Moo's going to take a bit of damage mid lane. Doom, the one to get the last hit on this tower. Sanshun now has Doom. He's level 6. For 10 minutes in, it's honestly not that bad considering he really got slowed down at the start, and they're going to make that smoke move right now.
Yeah, that's very smart. I mean, they would have been spotted by the ward right over here, but, I mean, very good awareness by them. Looks like Ice is in deep, deep trouble.
It's not looking good for Ice. Sangshane's coming from behind. The big, bad, flaming, undead monster is headed your way. It's the dragon that leads the way. Can you imagine if they found you? This would not be fun. Ice lifts up one, tries to throw Moo back. He pulls the Dragon Knight towards him. Not really ideal. Wanted to stun both, but in the end, just could not escape from that. But Yamate jumps in. He's got access to Haunt. He's trying to man up. Unfortunately, gets doomed. He's still fighting his way through this. He's still got the Spectral Dagger, but he's losing a lot of HP. On the chase is How. Double damage rune up. Easy kill for him, and this is falling apart in a jiffy for Zenith. They'll give up quite a few more kills. Now the score is 8-2. And this is where you have an off-lane lone druid, and the hero, if he cannot lane, just doesn't offer you anything. He's jungling, can't join the fights. Ice feeling rather useless, and his team really struggling here in game 1.
This second pick Weaver is doing tons of work. 5-0-0, 11 minutes in, shutting down a lone druid, widely considered one of the better offlaners. I mean, he's 0-3 right now. He just hit level 6.
He's 6k net worth in 12 minutes. That is pretty fantastic farm for him. I believe he's sitting close to 500 GPM with that, and in fact, he's just over it. Tongfu now so confident as to farm the enemy neutrals, only 12 minutes into the game. Remember, they picked a quad-core lineup, and they have a support Trian. It's almost a 5-core just because Trian, well, he does need quite a few levels to bring himself into a useful role in the mid-game. You want Overgrowth. He's getting close to it. Well, he's still useful with Living Armor, but he gets a lot more useful in the clashes with access to Overgrowth. King J's fishing for a hook. Pump fake number 1 and 2. He's not going to commit just yet, but he's thinking about it.
Yeah, speaking of XY, we haven't seen much of an Invoker this game, but he's doing very well right now. He actually has more CS than the Dragon Knight, and he has his drums completed. Phase drums with the Quaz Wex build. I mean, that's very good for CS considering he's up against a melee hero with pretty high base damage.
To be fair, Moo did leave the lane, but yeah, even so, once he got the phase boots, he really started to catch up, and now at this point, Invoker has a decent time last hitting. He's got 97 damage, his attack speed is good, he can hit the creeps from long range. Zenith are behind, they now trail by... Really? I just checked this and it was like 2,000. It's been 3 minutes, they've lost 5,000 in terms of gold, or the gold advantage is increased by 5,000, I should say. They now trail by 3k gold, and they're going to smoke up and look to make something happen. Ice will show himself bottom. Spectre shows himself mid, but the 3 key heroes are off the map. Let's see if Tongfu's watching. XY, he'll march up the ramp. He leads the way for this squad. They're trying to find Moo. An EMP Tornado is available. He's going to catch 2 with the Tornado. EMP not being invoked yet. He'll drop the Cold Snap. He gets doomed. He can't get off that next spell. Clockwork hooks in. King J catches 2. This is turning around. XY is low. Now the Swarm. Weaver joins the fray. It's all falling apart again. It looked like a good fight. They were wrong. It wasn't a good fight. X freedom to fall. Triple kill for How. And he's not done yet. He wants Yamate, who haunted into the wrong neighborhood. He'll try to get out of there. He can't escape Zenith. They throw 4 heroes into the meat grinder, and perhaps as they should have expected, get ground right up.
And, I mean, Invoker, he had a perfect setup there. He Tornado both of them, and it looks like they were doing very well, but the living armor on the Dragon Knight just let him live long enough to get all his spells off. He actually just bought his Shadow Blade right before he died, too, so he didn't actually lose any gold, so that was a terrible fight for Zenith. Also, Spectre is stuck in this very awkward situation where he has his casual Ring of Health. He's like, well, I don't really want to build a Vanguard, and I need damage items, so he's actually going for Diffusal right now.
Yeah, maybe... No, he will definitely go Diffusal. I only saw the initial Blade of Alacrity, but bottom lane, it's Ice. Gets caught out by Moo. Tongfu has access to Dragon Tail, not using it yet, throws out a Breathe Fire. Now the Bear trying to body block Ice Ice Ice, hoping for a Wodo to play, but King J's cogged him in. Now drops the Battery Assault, and it's in fact the Living Armor doing work yet again. Mu uses the Shadow Blade, runs him with the auto attack, stuns him, and brings him down. Meanwhile, mid lane, Hao's going in. Is he going to commit to this? Fortunately, Ice has stolen Sakuchi, so he'll at least be able to run away. His teammates, however, may not be so lucky.
Lone Druid is actually building a mech, and this is like the Eosin build. He likes to put it on his bear, and it's just like, oh, here we go. Team, just set it in team fight, heal your team up.
It's a pretty good choice. You're up against a Weaver. He's got the minus armor debuff from the Swarm, and they have actually quite a bit of AoE. Breathe Fire, the Rockets, the Swarm, and Sakuchi spam, and just Dragon Knight Splash once he hits level 11, which Mu already is. And you're poor as hell. So,
right.
End of the day, I mean, the Spectre's got to be the damage dealer. And Lone Druid with this kind of start,
I guess he can be the
mech is decent.
Aura Bear. He can get Vlad's too after this, but
it's still not. If you're forced to do this, that means something is going very wrong for your team.
It seems like item choices have expanded after the Armlet Spirit Bear nerf. Most of the time we see Radiance. Now we see Mech. Who knows?
For the time being, Tongfu, confident with their position, will march into the Roach Pit. They've got a medallion up on Banana. He's found the farming levels, and they're working on this Roach. I just don't think Zenith can contest. Despite having a pretty strong 5-man lineup, despite having EMP Tornado, Haunt online, Visage Familiars to scout, they're not even bothering. They're just going to give it up. They have to know something's up, but you're down 10k gold at 16 minutes. Contesting is very tough. Will they haunt in for this? The Familiars are there trying to snipe it. Roshan kill goes to the Dire, and the Aegis picked up by Hao. They do try to make a play, and it was the safe way to try and make one, but could not in the end.
Yep, and it looks like Weaver will pick up the Aegis. He also is just 38 gold away from his Lincoln Sphere.
This is going to be one of the faster Lincoln Spheres you'll ever see, and he's doing it with Treads, Rin of Aquila, and a Magic Wand bottle. It's not like he's rushing it. In fact, he's got a metric friggin' ton of regen, and he's got a Lincoln Sphere. And what does Zenith actually do against him? They have, dare I say it, I think it's 0 ways to deal with this Lincoln Sphere. I mean, they can cold snap him and then try and Rubik lift him, but they don't have enough burst to kill him after that.
They can just try a soul assumption.
And there's Living Armor.
Oh yeah, Living Armor, I mean,
you're just not killing Hao.
Living Armor is just incredible. They did Roshan and they didn't even take a single point of damage. Doom was taking it the whole time with his mech and with Living Armor, and they were just ready to fight. Usually when you do Roshan, you're in a kind of a compromising position because someone's forced to tank it, but not with Tree. And this is just the beauty of Tree right now.
It's an ancient Chinese riddle, Merlini. You may have heard it. How do you kill Hao?
How? Anyways.
You were not amused, but I had a great time making that joke.
Lone Druid has completed his mechanism.
Mechanism indeed.
Mechanism.
I think Purge is rubbing off on you. I think Lumi is really the root cause of all these pronunciation and English-speaking problems that we seem to have nowadays at the house. But, well, it's Ice Ice Ice. Maybe in trouble as Mu, under cover of Shadow Blade, looks for an initiation. He's not. Actually, he's just going to steal some creeps here. Meanwhile, middle lane, a bit of pressure from King J. Lurches forward, won't commit. Mu's going to back off. Now he comes back in. He's got an early Helm of Iron Will. I imagine we're going to see that armlet and just constant mid-game pressure. Pops the Dragon form. Now working on the creeps. Stealing the neutrals. This is how far ahead they feel they are. And they've got Living Armor. And Hexwide throws out a feudal tornado. Really, what can he do at this point?
Yeah, these supports are very, very poor. They're not able to buy sentries or dust to counter this Dragon Knight. I mean, he's just free to do whatever he wants in their jungle. And meanwhile, Hao will push up top lane, T2 tower at half HP, and they're all forced to just walk there. They're too broke for TPs.
I gotta say, as much as I love Orange, I think Net is one of, if not the best support players in the world. I mean, for me, he's the best, but other people may disagree. He's certainly up there. They're a fantastic team, but it is a breath of fresh air to see just a stable, defensive, methodical style from Hao and the Tongfu squad. The tower does get denied top, but still Tongfu claiming more and more map control. I don't think my heart could take another game like the one we just had, so we'll see a hook in mid. He's going to catch Yamate. King J does, but unfortunately Yamate does get pushed out. Doesn't matter. Still gets blown up. Now Ice to fall as well. So much initiation range for Tongfu and so much burst. They find 2 kills, and they're just farming Zenith's heroes near their base. And this is also where Spectre's Rusted Diffusal Blade has this pretty useless rain of health. No drums, no vitality booster. Very, very squishy.
Yeah, again, picking Spectre early does not seem to work out well for most teams. we see him picked up in the first and second picks, and he usually gets the farm, but he doesn't have any sort of impact in the mid late game. We saw Pavost with a relatively early Radiant, still not able to make enough of impact, and we see now with Yamate on the Spectre getting a lot of free farm, but again, he's 2 and 3. I don't really feel his presence in the game. Nothing like this Weaver, nothing like this Dragon Knight.
Tongfu, they've got control of Zenith's jungle. They've got it within their ironclad grasp, and they'll now just look to extend their farm lead. They'll play it slow and safe. That's just what this team does. They get that early advantage. They'll go for the pickoffs here and there, but they're not going to dive you at your base. As I say that, they probably will now, just to prove me wrong, but for the time being, just continue to accrue a greater and greater advantage, slowly but surely, pulling away with game 1 in this best of 2. We do have another game headed up after this, but Hal chips away at this tower. Mu has access to Dragon Form, Armlet online, won't bother to pop his ultimate just yet. They'll take the last remaining outer tower for Zenith, and Zenith, well, they're now pretty much restricted to 1/8 of the map.
And you don't really need too many damage items with Tongfu's carries. They have a Lincoln Sphere on Weaver, and they have an Armlet Shadow Blade on Dragon Knight, but couple that with the Alpha Wolf buff from the Doom, and they just do a lot of damage. There's no way that Zenith can take them out on a 5-on-5 fight. Even with the mech up on the Bear, they're just far too weak at this point.
Are they looking to make a go here on Hal?
He has Aegis, though.
Let me tell you right now, Zenith, that is not happening. I mean, maybe it will, just to prove me wrong. He's going to Cronin now. He gets lifted, but simply, well, the lift was, actually, I think it was a spell steal was cast, and then he just backs off. And Hal, he'll just TP top. Will continue farming. You mentioned Weaver doesn't have damage, and that they don't particularly need damage items, but they're going to get them soon, Merlini. Hal, up to 3.7k gold. I think it's a great game for Radiance, because all Tongfu really needs to do right now...
they're trying to smoke up top. He has Aegis, though, for another minute.
Well, the Aegis may wear off by the time they run into Tongfu. Question is, even if they get the jump on Tongfu, can they take the fight? It's going to be tough. They are down by 20k gold. 15k experience, and here we go. It'll be XY leading the charge. Ice right behind him. Ice in tow as well. As a pack of 5, they'll roam into the enemy jungle. A little bit unsure of where they want to go. The Bear is not leading the way, but it's actually going to come from the backside. Banana walks right in to the entire enemy team. The Haunt's there, but he gets an overgrowth on everyone. This is not ideal as far as starting a fight. Now Banana, well, Nature's guys himself. He tries to get out. He will go down. Ice stole overgrowth, uses it on Mu, holds him in place. XY got doomed. From the backside comes the Cavalry. It's King J, but it's looking like a decent fight for Zenith. Now Hal has joined the fight. Now it could get ugly. He's got that relic. Yamate tries to TP out, cannot escape, and the chase is really on Hal. He'll farm some familiars here. He'll also look to pick off your Visage. X-Freedom putting on his Nikes, going for the jukes, but Ice, despite doing the same as well, they've cornered him, they've corralled this Bear, and they'll bring him down in a hurry. They walked into Tree, and Tree got off a 5-hero overgrowth, and even though they then proceed to kill him and have a decent engagement, that was just not a good way to start the fight.
I mean, he bought back and just was right back there. They still have all their T1s up, and now they're countering by pressing a T3. Zenith's just grasping for straws right now, trying to get any sort of kill that they can get. I believe the score was 15-3 right before that engagement, but things are just not going well for them. Looks like a T3 tower will fall in the next 10 seconds.
GG from Zenith. Wow, they got clobbered in game 1. They now drop to 0-5 against Tongfu for their all-time head-to-head matchup. We do have a game 2 coming up, but the way this game went, I feel like as much as Zenith is that team that tries to play it cool, tries to act like they don't care, you know, Ice and his cocky personality. But end of the day, I mean, it's hard not to feel a little bit on tilt after getting beaten down like this.
Right. I mean, Doombringer just didn't have any sort of contest in his own jungle, and sure, the supports on Zenith got their levels and farm, but they just couldn't do anything. They just lost top lane so incredibly badly that their mid and bottom were forced to rotate up there, and because of that, pressure was relieved from the Dragon Knight and from the offlane clock, and the game was just taken from there.
Well, Tongfu will wait this one out a bit longer. Zenith has 2 players who have not yet disconnected, but you go back to the draft, and Zenith opened with Spectre Visage. And when you do that, it's just not the makings of a very strong tri-lane. They didn't have some easy 1v1 for the Spectre, like a Prophet Spectre matchup, so they had a defensive tri-lane. Tongfu saw that. They exploited it with an incredibly what would normally be a pretty greedy 5-man draft with a lot of heroes that need level 6, a lot of heroes that need just farm in general, heroes like Doom, a hero that has to jungle. Zenith tried to shut it down with the lone druid. It looked okay for Ice. He did block 3 camps at the first spawn, but then the Weaver Treant combo kicked in.
Right.
That was just way too much.
I mean, a
Ice
T2 dive 3 minutes in, that is absurd.
And he was pinning them. Guys,
help me, guys,
team,
help.
Team, where's the team? There was no team to be found.
I think Visage really excels on triple lanes, but it's just too predictable with the Spectre. It's very obvious what you're going to do, and you can just completely dodge it and kind of nullify Visage's early game presence. He didn't really do much at all. I think he has a pretty decent win rate as far as the games that I've seen recently, but without being able to soul something and take a lot of damage at that try or even roam effectively, he just doesn't seem like that strong of a pick.
And end of the day, it was a Spectre with an Invoker and a Lone Druid as well. So your two solos are... I mean, in the mid-game, Invoker can control fights, but he's not that hero that just goes and gets kills by himself. He's not a Queen of Pain. He's not a Templar Assassin.
I feel like he also needs like a setup
Beastmaster.
too. Like I've seen him work very well with Disruptor. You have the kinetic field or static field, whatever. Kinetic field and EMP, that just decimates teams, especially before you get your BKB. But...
in the end, I mean, Tongfu Cruise, they made that look easy, I gotta say. And
yeah, that was one of the more one-sided games that we've seen thus far in this tournament. But
we said 2-0 Tongfu without hesitation. They've looked a lot better as of late. They played a lot better here in game one. I think for Zenith, a lot of the issues do just come down to the draft for them. Like picking the Spectre early, but then also just following it up with a Lone Druid and an Invoker.
Lone Druid had no support.
What do those solos do? I mean, how do you punish a quad or even quintuple core? You can't.
Yeah, I mean, they try to put all their eggs in one basket with Spectre, but again, the early ring of health, I mean, it didn't do anything. If you go Vanguard, at least make use of
the item selection didn't help. I mean, yeah, at least get the Vanguard. I would have preferred just to see either Fair Yourself a Salve, get Tranquil Boots, get Drums. It's such a good item on Spectre early, and he needed to fight early because Ice Ice was feeding. XY could only do so much by himself as the Invoker. It's just the nature of Quaswex Invoker in the early to mid game. Well, we've beaten this horse to death. Let's throw it over to Purge and Blitz and see what they think.
Definitely weird picks out of Zenith. That's the main story of that one. The offlane Lone Druid, something that isn't explored very much often lately. Medic Bear. It's not a horrible offlane item. He got at a reasonable time for the offlane, I think. And I don't know. I think Tongfu just played really well. I also like how they throw the Doom pick in. Occasionally they use it against Navi as well to counter the Storm Spirit. In this case, it is one of the best Invoker counters. It doesn't kill the guy necessarily, but if you can prevent him from casting a bunch of teamfight spells, it's a teamfight advantage for you.
Yeah, also, the Invoker pick kind of felt weird. When you go Quaswex Invoker as well, you're expecting to win your lane just because of the regen that the Quas gives you. Cold Snap is so strong, but because of the living armor and the way that Dragon Knight works and getting the early Dragon's Blood, you negate the overall lane win that you can get. And normally you expect to kind of just like stomp that lane too when you're playing Invoker, but with the long ago base damage nerf to Invoker, it's really hard to CS with him, so he kind of got dominated in that respect. And also, going Quaswex means you don't really have a lot of damage. Like, they didn't really have any damage throughout their team. And also, in the draft, they didn't really draft a disable for the Weaver. I mean, there was a Rubik with telekinesis, but there wasn't enough burst damage. Like, you go Quaswex Invoker against a Weaver with, like, Rubik as your only disable that can disable anybody.
Yeah, they would have had to, like, EMP the Weaver and then disable him to kill him.
But even then, like, then he would have had to start with, like, half mana for that to work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really tough to make it work, and even landing the EMP Tornado is a lot more difficult than it was in the past, especially if you continue leveling the skills. It can get a little dicey in whether or not you land the Tornadoes. Before it was Fire and Forget, you'd be like, oh, EMP and Tornado upper, you just go, bam, bam, you throw everything out, you drain everybody's mana, it's a great thing, but the big base damage nerf to Invoker, I think, is a little bit too much for him to be strong. I mean, Dragon Knight was able to stay consistently above NCS despite constant right-clicks, and a really nice game from Tongfu. I think they played great. Even the Doom didn't get the best creep spawns at the start. But yeah, they're going to take game one. So that's game one of the two-game set between Tongfu and Zenith. We'll be back in just a bit with game two, guys. Don't go anywhere.